Hi there and welcome to this IBM Cloud Foundation Skills Series video. This video is going to be a lab and it's going to be your account the first 60 minutes. So what are we going to be doing in this video? So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to log into our account and we're going to change the default resource group name. We're going to change the default organization name and we're going to actually add a space. Now, assuming that you've actually got a light account, the next thing we're going to do is actually go and upgrade the account to a pay-go account, and I'll show you how to do that. The next thing we're going to do is once you have an upgraded account, so you will need either a pay-go or a subscription account to do this. I'm going to show you how to set up the Cloud Foundry organisation for a rules project. So if you remember back to the last video where we talked about how Cloud Foundry can be set up and used around projects, I'm actually going to show you how to set that up and do it. And similarly, I'm going to show you how to set it up for identity and access management for the rules project as well. And the last thing we're going to do is actually start inviting the first users. So if you're ready, let's log into the console. Okay, so here we are logged into the console. You can see that at the moment we've got no services or applications created. So the first thing I'm going to actually go and do is look at my resource group. So if I go to click on Manage, go to Account and then Resource Groups. So you can see here that I've got one resource group and that's called Default. Now if you don't really like the name Default, this is the, as I say, this is the resource group that's created with all accounts. If you don't really like the name Default, then you can go and change it and call it something else. So I'm going to call this James First Resource Group. That's a bit long-winded, but we'll save that anyway. There we go, so you can see that's been updated. Now, what you will notice is that I can't actually create a new resource group on here because I've got a light account, so I can't do that, so I'm going to click Not Now. The other things you can actually do from this menu is add resources, so if you click on that, that will take me to the catalogue and I can start to actually create services and create an application. The other thing that I can do is click Manage Access, and that's where I can then start to manage who can actually access this resource group, so it's creating users, etc., etc. So I won't do that at the moment, so I'll show you how to do that in a moment. Okay, so that's resource groups, that's my first resource group. The next thing I'm going to do is go and look at my Cloud Foundry. So if I click again, Manage an Account, and go and look at my Cloud Foundry organisations. So the Cloud Foundry org that I've got in there by default is called james.tsme@gmail.com, so that's obviously my IBM ID. So again, if I click Add an Organisation, again because this is a light account, I'm not allowed to actually go and do that. So I'm going to cancel that for now. If I actually click on here, then what I can do is I've got a space in there as well. So my first space is called Dev. Now what I can do if I want to is I can rename that. So it's quite simple to do. So I can do, let's call it Development, for instance, and save that. So there we go. Now the next thing that I can do is add a space. So first thing it does is it asks you for a region. So this is really the region in the IBM Cloud where you actually want to create this space. If you remember back to the last lecture, spaces are connected to regions, and once you have a space in a region, you're then actually able to create Cloud Foundry managed resources in that particular region. But if I click on this list, the only region I've actually got coming up is United Kingdom, and that's because that's where my account has been created, and because this is a light account, I'm actually restricted to only being able to create spaces within this one single account. So to create this new space, I'm going to just give it a name, so I'm going to call it Test. So I'm going to save that. And what I can actually do is create as many spaces as I like in here, so I'm going to create another one, which I'm going to call Prod. Production, and again I need to just select a region for that, so we go United Kingdom and save that. So then you can see what I've actually got is So I've actually got my 3 spaces, so development, production and test. So let's go back one. So again, let's try and rename my organisation, because I don't really like that. So I'm going to call this James Belton Org. Save that. So there we go, I've actually renamed my organisation. Okay. So the next thing that I'm going to do is what I actually want to do is actually upgrade my account. So I'm going to upgrade my account with my credit card. So to do that, the quickest way to really do it is to click on your account name up here, or your account details up here, and then actually click upgrade account. So so what do you actually get when you upgrade your account? So you need to obviously fill out the billing information. You can say whether it's a company account or a personal account. So if you choose a company account, then it gives you actually asks you for your company information. I'm actually going to keep this as a personal account, so it takes out the company box. So adding this gives me access to the full catalogue. Again, it's saying that there's no minimum charge, so I just pay for what I use. So I get continued access to all the light plans, which is great. I'll get some additional Cloud Foundry memory as well, so it goes up to 512 megabytes, so it means I can spin up more services and do more with it. I get access to free plans, which I don't with the light account. And I can actually now also purchase infrastructure resources as well, which I can't do with the light account either. And in addition, I get this $200 credit too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to update this. So I'm going to put in my details here. I'm obviously not going to do this on camera. So I'm just going to pause the video here and catch up with you when I've actually upgraded my account. Whilst I'm putting in my credit card details, just to remind you, we're going to be setting up some IAM resource groups for the rules project, and these are going to be so we're going to have 3 different resource groups. So we're going to have a rules dev resource group, a rules test resource group, and a rules prod resource group. And on the Cloud Foundry side, we're just going to have the one Cloud Foundry organisation called rules, and then within that we need to have 3 spaces, one called dev, one called test, and one called prod. So welcome back. I've now finished upgrading my account. That probably took me 30 seconds to a minute to actually do it. And if you go to the billing screen, you can now see that my account is actually showing as pay as you go. So that's where I want to be. So what we're going to do next is actually set up the environment to help support a development project called Rules. So we talked about it in the slides, and I've just given you a quick refresh as to what that would look like. So now what we're going to do is actually set that up and invite a user. So to do that, I go to Manage, and let's do it for the resource groups first. So if I go to Account and then Resource Groups. So the first resource group that I'm going to create is going to be called, I'm just going to call this Rules Dev. So this is going to be my development resource group. So I'll call that Rules Dev. So this is dead easy. Next one's going to be rules. We're going to have a test environment. There we go. So click add on that, and then we're going to have a rules prod environment. So now that I've got my resource groups, what I'm going to go and do is actually create my Cloud Foundry organisation spaces. So I do that by clicking Manage, Account, and then Cloud Foundry Orgs. So I'm just going to go and create an organisation for the rules project. Save that. Okay, and now that we actually have the rules organisation created, what we can then do is go and create the spaces. So click on add a space, and what you'll now see is I can click select a region, and I can actually select any region around the world. So I'm going to create these in US East, just to show that I can do that. So I'm going to create one called rules dev. Create another one. I'm going to put this in the US East as well. And I'm going to call this rules test. And let's create rules problem just to show that I can create them around the globe. I'm going to create this one in Germany. And I'm going to call this one rules prod. The next thing that I'm going to do is, so now that I've actually got all of these organisations, I've got my spaces, I've got my resource group, what I'm actually going to start to do is invite some users to my account. So see, I click manage account and I go to users. And there you go, we can see the actual user setup on the account at the moment. And of course, the only one there is it's James Belton, that's me. And this is actually the account owner, and you can see my IBM ID there. So how do we actually invite users and get them using your account? So the easiest way to do that is to click this button here, invite users. And the first thing that you then need to do is just simply put in the email addresses of the people that you want to invite and actually use this account. So if they already have an IBM ID, then use the email address that they've signed up for the IBM ID with. If they don't already have an IBM ID, then use the email address that they will then use to create an IBM ID. So this is a user, so this is my corporate account I'm going to invite now. So I've already got an IBM ID on this account. So I'm going to just type that in. IBM.com. So when I actually invite this user, the access to this account will automatically appear in that user's account. If it's a user who doesn't yet have an IBM ID account, then they will get an email inviting them to create one. So there's an important difference there. So anyway, in this box I can add up to 100 different email addresses. I'm only inviting one person at the moment. And then next we decide what access we want to assign. So in terms of services, and this is the IAM side of things, I'm actually going to assign access to a resource group. I'm going to give this user fairly high access privileges. Later on, in another video, I'll show you how to actually assign more granular privileges on this. I'm going to assign resources to one of my resource groups. So I want this person to be able to access the rules dev resource group. I'm going to give them administrator access on here, so they can obviously do quite a lot of stuff there. I'm going to give them access to all identity access enabled services, and here I'm also going to make them an administrator and a manager. As I say, I'm giving them all the privileges in the world. As I say, normally what you do is make that a bit more granular, but as I say, I'll show you some of that later on. Next is giving them Cloud Foundry access. So the default is to give them no Cloud Foundry access at all. I want to give this person access to my rules organisation, and I'm going to give them manager rights, and I can actually add another role here as well. So for instance, I wanted them to be able to see billing, then I can give them billing manager role as well. I want them to see stuff in all regions, but I can actually tie this down to particular regions, and I want them to see things in all spaces as well. So I'm going to go for all current spaces, and the space role I'm going to give them a manager, and again I can give them additional space roles if I want to. So I'm giving developer or auditor. I'm just going to give them manager for now. And in terms of infrastructure access, we haven't really talked about infrastructure yet, but I'm not actually going to assign infrastructure access to this user yet. We'll cover that in another lecture. It says a space role is required. So let's have a look. All current spaces, manager, and I need to select a role here. So I'm going to give it developer access. There we go. So then my my invite user button comes live. So I press invite user. And there you go. So you now see the invite user was successfully added. You can see this username here, and that means that this user is now active and successful. So what we can then do is we're actually on the screen now, so you can actually manage users from here as well. So I can then actually click on this user and indeed see what access these people have got. So I can see that I've got Cloud Foundry access there, for instance. There's no access policies here at the moment, and I've not actually assigned anyone to an access group either. So if you do actually want to create an access group, then if you click access groups here, you can then click create. You can give the name an access group. So I'm going to call this my rules developer access group. Remember, this is really a shortcut to assigning the same kind of roles and privileges to a particular user. So this is my access group for all of the rules developers. Okay, so you create that. Okay, so that's successfully created. Now what I can actually do is give this some access policies. So assign access to the group. So I'm going to assign this access to the resource group. So my resource group is it's going to be rules dev, and I'm going to give it viewer access to the resource group. I'm going to allow it to have access to all identity and access enabled services. I'm going to allow it to be a viewer. I'm going to allow this to be, well, actually I'm going to make it an operator and a viewer, and I'm going to make it a manager and a writer. I'm going to assign access to that. Okay, so now there we go. So now the access group has these particular privileges. What I'm then going to do is actually add a user to it. So obviously I've only got, there's only 2 users here. So I'm going to assign this user access, and I'm going to create add to the group. And there you go, you can now see that user has access to the group as well. And again, if I want to add users, then I can add other users as I see fit. So so very quickly, that's how to actually add an access group as well. And as I said, that's a good way to set up the access rights once, and then assign that access group to lots of different users. So as I showed you, I actually invited my corporate user to my account, to my new account, and this is actually my my corporate account. So you can see I've actually got lots of services enabled here. So how do I actually start working in the other one? Well, basically I go here, I click on this drop down here and this drop down here, and then I can switch to this account down here. And what you'll then find is that I have a it's just loading up. So what you see here is that I actually have a clear dashboard, and I'm ready to go. So yeah, that's just to show you how that works. So in fact, because I'm an existing a user with an IBM ID, I don't get any email to say that I've actually been invited to this account. So one of the things you'll need to do as the administrator is just let people know when you've actually granted them access, so then they can get going. As I say, all they then need to do is log in using their IBM ID, and If they have if they have an existing account, which they probably might do, they may already have an existing Lite account. Then, as I say, all they have to do is go to here and to this drop down, and then switch to the account that they want to use. It's as simple as that. Okay, so here we are back in our pay-as-you-go account dashboard. A couple of other things I'm going to show you is just around billing. So I'm going to click Manage. I'm going to go to Billing and Usage. I'm just going to go down to Usage. It's just good to have get used to these screens and just understand some of them. So so this particular screen is giving me some information about the current costings for the different services. So you can see at the moment I've got some. I created a Node.js instance in a previous video. It's just showing me the cost of that. I've actually deleted this now, so I can't go and view the instance. Soft layer billing. This is referring to any infrastructure billing. As I say, at the moment I haven't actually created any of that, but you may see this as a separate line. And then it gives you an estimated total for the next billing cycle. Because I've just upgraded, you can see that I've got this this credit on my account. So because I'm in the UK, it's coming in as pounds sterling. So I've actually got a starting balance of £160, and I can use that. I think it's over the next 30 days. Up here, you can actually see the different types of billing, so I can change this. So at the moment it's in Cloud Foundry org, so what I can do is see what's going on in particular organisations. So at the moment there's nothing to display there because I've not created anything in the rules group. If I go to the James Belton org, then this is where I actually created the Bluemix Node.js instance, and you can see that it was free, so there's no cost to it. If I go back in there, I can then go to resource groups, and again I can see my billing and costing by resource group. So again, if I click on one of those, there's no usage because I haven't actually created anything yet. If I go back to the whole account, you can see that. The other thing here is a time frame drop down, so I can look at the current usage cycle. Because this is a fairly new account, I can't go any further back, but what you'll normally be able to see is the various months that you've had the account open. You'll be able to go back to those different billing cycles and see what you were billing at the time. Now another, so we just check out this billing tab. So this tells you what kind of account type you've got. If you want to, I'm just seeing, you can't do that there. I was just seeing if we could change your billing type there, but I'll see where that is in a moment. If I actually want to change the account name, so if for instance, this does become a corporate account, then I can change the account name by clicking this little pencil here, and rather than it being James Belton's account, maybe I can change it to, I don't know, Belton Co. Or something like that. If it becomes the name of a company account, so it's less personal. So I can do that there if I want to. Now this spending notifications tab is probably something you will want to go and look at, and possibly set up some spending notifications, especially if you're using this privately and you want to keep a real close eye on what you're spending. So you can actually reset these. So I'm going to set this down to, I don't know, let's set this down to £5. Set all these down to £5 in fact. Because I don't want to suddenly get a whacking great bill. So I'm going to send myself an email notification if I actually breach any of these. And you can actually set this for different services as well. So let's try that. So if, for instance, I'm using Cloud and NoSQL DB, then again I can set myself up with a billing notification if I happen to exceed more than £5 worth of usage. So to put that on, I can just click Save. So there we go, those notifications have been successfully saved. So you may want to set those up. Should we go back to the profile? So there we go. And if you want to actually change your profile, I don't know, you might want to put your photograph on there so other people can see it, then you can do that there as well. So let's go back to the catalogue. So as I said, because this is now a PayGo account, I can actually view all of the catalogue. Let's go and create another service. So let's have a think. What can we go and create? So for instance, let's go and create a cloud and database. As I say, this is all nice and simple. So I can either put a search in here, so I can go for Cloudant. There you go, it comes up. So I click on there. And to create this, I just want to give it a name. So I'm going to call this my first Cloudant, just so I can identify it. Now I can decide where I want to actually deploy this. So again, because I'm now around the globe, so I'm going to deploy this in London because it's closest to me. I can decide which resource group I'm going to put it into. So I'm going to put it into rules dev. Authentication methods. So I can use either just IAM authentication, and we'll come on to this again in a later video, or we can use both legacy credentials and IAM. I'm going to leave it on legacy and IAM. I guess because I'm now a pay-as-you-go user, I actually have a choice now between using a light plan or a standard plan, or actually a dedicated hardware plan if I'm feeling particularly flush. And you can see the prices of these things here. So the standard plan, this actually gives me some free tier. So it gives me 20 gigabytes of free data storage, and it gives me a certain number of lookups per second and writes per second as well for free. I'm still just going to create a light plan because again, I don't really want to spend any money here. So and as I say, I can still do this. So I'm going to I just need to reselect my authentication method again because I've changed plan. So I'm just going to leave that. I'm going to click create, and that will go away. So it's now actually creating those resources for me, which is fairly quick. And there you go. There's my first Cloudant service. And if I go to my dashboard, again, you can now see that my Cloudant database is there. Okay, well that brings us to the end of the lab. It's been quite a long one, but thanks for sticking with it. So basically what we've done is gone through the kinds of things that you might want to do within the first 30 to 60 minutes of having your IBM Cloud account. So if you decide to stick with a light account, you might want to go along and change the name of your default resource group. You may also want to change the name of your default Cloud Foundry organization, and you may also want to add some more spaces to your Cloud Foundry organization. But remember, those spaces all need to be in the same region where your account is effectively based. If you do decide to actually upgrade your account to a pay-as-you-go account, then you need to add your credit card details, and I showed you where to go and do that. Once you've done that, you can then obviously start to add more resource groups, and I showed you how to create 3 more resource groups to reflect the structure of a rules project example. So I ended up with a resource group for production, testing and development. And you can also then create multiple organisations as well. So we created a second organisation for the rules project, and within that organisation we then created 3 separate spaces, and I showed you that those spaces could actually be within different regions now that we're using a pay-as-you-go account. So once we'd created those, I then showed you how to create a user, how to invite a user, and assign some privileges to that user, and also how to create an access group as well, which is a much easier way of actually inviting multiple users and giving them all the same rights. The last thing I did was, or the second to last thing I did was show you how how it looks from another user's perspective, so how they actually then access their own account and then switch to the account that they've just been invited to. And then lastly, we just went into some of the billing screens, and I showed you where you can see the billing, how you can see the billing by resource group or by organisation, and also how to set up some spending notifications and billing alerts as well. Okay, well, as I say, that's it for this video. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.